Why is the US dollar crumbling under the trade war's weight? The Federal Reserve just refused to save the stock market, sending Wall Street into a tailspin. But it's not just investors feeling the pain. Your grocery bill is about to skyrocket, and the White House is fuming. The US dollar, once the unshakable cornerstone of global finance, is now staggering like a weary warrior after a brutal battle. Its value has plummeted 8 year-to-date in 2025, according to currency market data, marking its weakest performance in years and reflecting investor panic over trade disruptions and Federal Reserve policy. This decline is no accident. It's a direct casualty of the escalating trade war and the Fed's bold refusal to bow to market pressures. On April 16, 2025, Fed Chair Jerome Powell dropped a bombshell that reverberated across Wall Street. No interest rate cuts to rescue the stock market, despite tariffs fueling inflation, which remains stubbornly at 2.7, above the Fed's 2 target, and choking economic growth. Powell's warning was stark and uncompromising. The tariff increases now averaging 145 on Chinese goods compared to just 3 before the trade war began in 2018, according to the Peterson Institute for International Economics, are far larger than anticipated, driving higher inflation and slower growth. He described the economy as caught in a precarious bind, with tariffs acting like a hidden tax that jacks up prices for everything from electronics to baby strollers. The CT 500 plummeted in a single day, with futures wobbling as markets absorb the Fed's hands-off stance. Why is Powell standing firm? It's a high-stakes gamble to tame inflation without tipping the economy into a full-blown recession. Tariffs are inflationary by design, raising costs for businesses that either pass them on to consumers or absorb crippling losses. Consumer prices are projected to rise 2.3% in 2025 due to these tariffs, costing us households an average of $3,800 in purchasing power, according to the National Bureau of Economic Research. Cutting rates could spark growth, but risks fanning the flames of inflation, conjuring the ghost of stagflation, a toxic mix of stagnant growth and soaring prices. Imagine a tightrope walker balancing over a pit of fire, with gusting winds threatening to knock them off. That's the Federal Reserve right now. Powell's refusal to cut rates signals a long-term strategy to prioritize price stability, even if it means short-term pain for markets, businesses, and households. This isn't just about abstract numbers. It's about the real-world squeeze on everyday Americans. From grocery bills to car payments, tariffs are hitting consumers hard, with businesses passing on costs or slashing jobs to survive. The Fed's defiance has drawn fire from President Trump, who's betting on rate cuts to buoy his economic agenda. Trump's public attacks on Powell, including calls for his termination, signal a dangerous push to erode the Fed's independence, threatening the stability of America's financial system. Like a captain steering a ship through a violent storm, Powell is holding course, but the waves are growing fiercer, and the crew is growing restless. The tension between the White House and the Fed is a ticking time bomb, with global markets hanging in the balance. How did NVIDIA become the US's secret weapon? In the trade war, new export controls just slashed NVIDIA's $5.05 billion China market overnight. You'd think China would crumble, but they're building their own chips. And America's tech giants are the ones bleeding. In the arena of global trade, technology is the ultimate prize. NVIDIA stands as the US's most potent weapon. The chipmaker, a juggernaut powering the AI revolution, has been thrust into the heart of the US-China trade war, its chips becoming the critical bargaining chip in a high-stakes geopolitical chess game. In early 2025, the Trump administration unleashed a shockwave by imposing new export controls on NVIDIA's H20 chips, designed specifically to skirt earlier restrictions and fuel China's tech ambitions. These chips, representing a $5.05 billion for NVIDIA, were suddenly barred from Chinese buyers. NVIDIA stock slid 6.9% overnight, dragging down the tech-heavy Nasdaq and amplifying market volatility. Given that NVIDIA accounts for 7 of the CA 500's market cap, according to market analysis, CEO Jensen Huang raced to Beijing, meeting with Chinese officials and DeepSeek's EO to salvage ties. But the damage was done. Why does this matter? Semiconductors are the lifeblood of the modern world, powering everything from smartphones to military drones. China's reliance on NVIDIA's chips for AI and high-tech development, with 95% its AI sector's computing power coming from foreign chips, according to industry reports, makes them a strategic choke point. The U.S., wary of China's technological rise, is wielding export controls like a sword to slow Beijing's progress. US imports from China dropped 36% in just 2 weeks in March 2025, driven partly by these tech restrictions, according to US Customs Service data. It's akin to cutting off an opponent's oxygen in a marathon. Strategic, ruthless, and risky. But China isn't sitting idly by. Beijing is countering with innovation and retaliation, with companies like DeepSeek bypassing US restrictions through domestic chip designs. Though China's chip capacity, led by Huawei, trails NVIDIA's H20 chips by an estimated 12-18 months in performance. According to Bloomberg, China's 125 tariffs on U.S. goods are hitting American tech firms, farmers, and manufacturers, while Beijing's pivot to alternative suppliers in Asia and Europe signals a long-term shift. This is a high-stakes poker game, with NVIDIA caught in the crossfire. The U.S.'s tech blockade may slow China's ascent, but it risks devastating American companies, costing billions in revenue and eroding investor confidence. The broader tech sector, including AMD and ASML, faces similar threats, with potential losses in the tens of billions, according to market forecasts. NVIDIA's plight is a microcosm of the trade war's complexity. By choking off China's access to advanced chips, the U.S. aims to maintain technological dominance, but it's alienating allies and fueling a global tech race. China's response, doubling down on self-reliance, could reshape the semiconductor landscape with long-term implications for global innovation. Like a general sacrificing a key battalion to win a war, the U.S. is betting big, but the cost could be staggering, both for American companies and the global economy. What happens when China strikes back in the trade war? Beijing's 125 tariffs have crippled US exports, slashing $120 billion in trade. But it's not just America hurting. Europe and Canada are caught in the crossfire and gold prices are exploding. China isn't just defending its turf, it's striking back with the ferocity of a cornered dragon. Beijing's 125 tariffs on US goods, a direct counterpunch to Trump's 145 levies, have all but severed trade between the world's two economic superpowers. US-China trade, which totaled $585 billion in 2024, with US imports at $440 and exports at $145 billion. According to US trade representative data, is collapsing under the weight of this feud, with supply chains fraying and markets trembling. China's retaliation goes beyond tariffs. Beijing banned Hollywood films, issued travel warnings against the US, and blacklisted 27 American companies, including Boeing and Intel, on its unreliable entity list. It's a multi-front assault, like a boxer unleashing a flurry of jabs, hooks, and uppercuts. China's exports to the U.S. are projected to plummet 8% by 2027, costing millions of jobs and shaving 0.7% off China's GDP, with 10-20 million workers in export industries at risk, according to the International Monetary Fund. But the pain is mutual. US exporters face $120 billion in annual losses, with farmers, tech firms, and manufacturers hit hardest. These shockwaves are global. Canada retaliated with tariffs on US electricity, while the EU slapped $28 billion in levies on American bourbon, motorcycles, and tech goods. Global supply chains are unraveling, with shipping costs up 40% and delays doubling, contributing to a projected 0.30 loss in global GDP in 2025-2026, according to the World Bank. Gold prices surged to $3,950 per ounce in April 2025, a record high driven by trade war fears, signaling investor panic. Picture a spider web representing global trade. Pluck one strand, and the entire structure quakes. The US-China trade war is ripping every strand, threatening recessions, job losses, and price spikes worldwide. Brazil may gain from soybean exports to China, but its steel industry is buckling under US tariffs. No nation is immune, and the fear is palpable. The trade war's fallout is reshaping global alliances. China is courting Southeast Asia and Africa, offering trade deals to offset US pressure, while Europe is reassessing its reliance on both US and Chinese markets. Developing nations like India and Vietnam are capitalizing on the chaos, attracting supply chain investments, but face risks if the global economy contracts. The US's aggressive tariffs are pushing allies away, with Canada and Mexico rethinking USMCA commitments. This is a global economic quake, and the aftershocks are just beginning. Who's paying the price for the trade war's chaos? American families are hit with a $3,800 bill just to keep up with rising prices. It's not just consumers, small businesses are collapsing, and allies are turning their backs on America. Behind the cold numbers lies a human tragedy. American households face a $1,300 tax hike in 2025 from tariffs, with some estimates warning of a $3,800 loss in purchasing power as consumer prices rise 2.3%, according to the National Bureau of Economic Research. From baby strollers to prescription drugs, which saw an 8% price increase in Q1 2025 due to supply chain disruptions. Everyday goods are skyrocketing, squeezing families already battered by 2.7% inflation. It's like a slow bleed, draining wallets with every trip to the store. Small businesses are collapsing under the pressure. A small supplier to Walmart or Albertsons faces a grim choice: absorb tariff costs and lose profits, or raise prices and lose contracts. Giants like Walmart wield market power to dodge the pain, while small producers, like a mom-and-pop baby mat maker, face ruin. US manufacturing jobs declined by 194,000 in 2024-2025 due to tariff-related cost increases, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, amplifying the economic toll. It's a David versus Goliath battle, and Goliath is winning. Politically, the trade war is a tinderbox. Trump's attacks on the Federal Reserve, including threats to oust Powell, signal a perilous assault on institutional independence. Allies like Canada and the EU are retaliating, with Canada's electricity tariffs and Europe's $28 billion levies fraying diplomatic ties. Tourism dropped 15%, with Canada and Europe cutting flights to the US amid trade fears and visa crackdowns, according to the US Travel Association. China is rallying Southeast Asia to counter US influence, while Trump's America First rhetoric isolates the US, risking its role as a global leader. Public sentiment reflects the strain. 60% of Americans view trade with China negatively, compared to 46% for Canada and Mexico, according to Pew Research. The human cost extends beyond economics. Families are cutting back on essentials, small business owners are losing their dreams, and workers face layoffs as industries contract. Tourism operators, particularly in border states, are reeling, with Canadian visitors declining due to trade tensions and visa issues. Global citizens are feeling the pinch, from European workers facing job cuts to Asian manufacturers struggling with supply chain chaos. Like a wildfire, this trade war is spreading, fueled by nationalism and mistrust, threatening to consume entire economies and communities. Can diplomacy save the world from the trade war's brink? A single deal could boost global GDP by 0.2, or failure could crash it by 0.5. While Trump and Xi talk peace, their allies are gearing up for a new economic order. Is there a way out of this economic inferno? Both the US and China are posturing, but glimmers of hope persist. China's Commerce Ministry has signaled openness to equal footing talks, while Trump claims a very good deal is within reach. Yet, with the US-China trade, which fell to $585 billion in 2024, nearly severed, the clock is ticking. An unchecked trade war could shave 0.3 to 0.5 off global GDP, pushing both nations and their allies toward recession, according to the World Bank. The path forward demands pragmatism, reciprocal tariff reductions, agreements on tech transfers, and rebuilding trust. China's pivot to emerging markets, now 44 of its exports compared to 34 in 2015, according to the World Trade Organization, shows it's preparing for a world less reliant on the US. Trump's tariffs could raise $3.1 trillion over a decade, but retaliation slashes this by 12.26. According to the Tax Foundation, global investment fell 5% in 2024 due to supply chain disruptions, slowing innovation. According to the OEC, a trade deal could boost global GDP by 0.2, but failure risks a 0.5 contraction. Diplomacy is not just a strategy, it's a necessity. Both sides must navigate domestic pressure. Trump faces a restless base demanding tough action, while XEI contends with economic slowdown and nationalist fervor. Allies like the EU and Japan could mediate, but their own trade disputes complicate the picture. Developing nations, benefiting from supply chain shifts, may push for de-escalation to protect their gains. The US and China are like two ships on a collision course in a stormy sea. Diplomacy is the only lighthouse that can guide them to safety. Without it, the global economy faces a wreck of historic proportions. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 deepened the Great Depression, slashing global trade by 66. Today's trade war, with 135 US tariffs and 125 Chinese retaliations, risks similar devastation, but the stakes are higher in a hyper-connected world. Leaders must choose: de-escalate and negotiate, or double down and risk disaster. The world is watching, and the future hangs in the balance. The US-China trade war is a defining moment, a clash that's reshaping economies, alliances, and lives. From the dollar's decline to Nvidia's struggles, from retaliatory tariffs to the human toll, this crisis demands our attention. As families, businesses, and nations brace for impact, one truth stands out: the choices made today will shape our world for decades. Stay informed, share this story, and let's push for a future where cooperation triumphs over conflict